Yeah, my name is Felix Rop. I head the financial services technology team, public sector technology team in Safaricom. That is the team basically that ensures that M-pesa is always on, always secure. The same team that ensures that we continue evolving M-pesa to the next level as we progress and the financial services systems at large. The architecture that we have today is an architecture that is scalable in nature, but not the best in class. And now we will be in the process, or we are in the process of evolving that architecture into a best-in-class architecture that will take us now to the next level. What we have today is a system that runs in 3 environments. That is a production environment, a disaster recovery environment, another disaster recovery environment, in the sense that if we lose one environment, then we're able to switch traffic from that environment seamlessly to another environment. And if the issue was within one server within the same environment, then we are automatically able to switch over from that one server that has failed to the other server, just to ensure that we have the robustness and the resilience of the platform. We then went into that kind of architecture that allows us to be always available and always secure. The way we've architected the system today is one that whenever we lose a database in one environment that carries, a database is of course where the transactions happen after they are being processed by the application, then the same database will automatically switch over to a standby database within less than a minute, and we will be able to continue processing that seamlessly. And in a case where the entire site is out, as mentioned, then within 4 minutes, we should be able to switch the traffic from that environment to another environment in a controlled manner. Of course, that's the technical part, but before taking such decisions of a switchover, of course, from a technology perspective, we have to look at many things. Will the data be fully available on the other side? Because data integrity is very important to us, ensuring that as much as we've switched over traffic from one environment to the other, coming up on the other environment is more important to ensure that we actually come up with the right balances. You can imagine a case where M-pesa comes up with the wrong balances on the other environment or something like that. It will be a crisis. And therefore, the way we've architected the system is in a manner that it's that robust in nature. We, at first in 2015, the way when M-pesa came home, it was, we thought that was the 616 TPS was really one that we could not achieve. Rather, it was very high. But today, as I told you, we are now at 4,000 transactions per second. Then what that meant is we had to continuously upgrade our environment. And the biggest bottleneck that we saw then was a database. And the reason for that is because all the transactions are written into the database. The technologies that we had then are not the same ones that we have today. And therefore, leveraging on the enhancement, the evolution of technology to what we have today, then we will be upgrading it even further. From now, a case of just replacing a database, you're moving from a 16-core database from 2000 technology to a database that is a 32-core to a 64-core database. Now switching these into one that we can actually seamlessly upgrade M-pesa without necessarily having to disconnect everybody from the service. We just set up one environment and then we scale it horizontally and seamlessly without necessarily bringing down all the services. If you recall, we had in 2015, 16, 17, before 2020, we used to have a lot of notifications that we are going to upgrade M-pesa. Be down for the next 2 hours from midnight, from midnight. Mostly it's from 1 a.m. because that's when we realize most of our customers. But to date, actually, at 1 a.m. we still have about 300 customers transacting per second, mostly over the weekend. And so then we would bring down systems to be able to upgrade. In the recent past, I'm sure you've seen them, but they're not that frequent. And it is because of the evolution that we've been able to undertake. Every other week, every other month, we have almost 2 upgrades of the core M-pesa system and the systems in that ecosystem. M-pesa we have an M-pesa core system, that's the wallet, but also the same core system exposes a lot of APIs generally that interconnects with many other systems, and that's where our partners come in through the payment gateway, or the payment gateway that interconnects to them. And whenever we interconnect them, we have almost 45,000 integrations into that ecosystem. Of course, we also have the gateway, which has about 100,000 developers. And how we support that is through the APIs that are robust. All these systems interconnect to the core in a manner that is very secure, and that's how we are able to power that every single request that comes into the system. M-pesa, as mentioned, we have more than 10 systems within the ecosystem, financial services ecosystem. Remember, we recently launched CD, a new product, that's a wealth management product. We've had a lot of evolution around the lending side of things, where we had Fuliza. That didn't come in 2015. We've always evolved that from a technology perspective by bringing on board more systems and enhancing the capability of the core system through innovation. Now we have what we have today. Today we have a multi-tenant lending platform that powers Fuliza and many other lending propositions, term loans that are there. We've just set up a multi-tenant wealth management platform. Multi-tenant in this case means you can have as many partners as possible coming on board as much as we agree with them commercially, and then we host the platform for them, and then we run the technology for them. And then we agree commercially on the other side. As part of my role, of course, is to ensure that strategically we meet the business goals from a technology perspective, and therefore going for multi-tenant kind of architecture is what we've been doing from a lending perspective, wealth, and now going into the insurance space with the same kind of mindset as we power the evolution. How M-pesa processes a transaction, customer does a transaction either from the app, from star334 USSD, or from the SIM toolkit. So in most cases, a customer sends a transaction, a request, and then they receive a notification. Most of our customers do not know actually what happens behind it. We have over 700 servers that process these requests, at least within the M-pesa ecosystem alone. After the request leaves the network, it comes all the way to the M-pesa ecosystem where we receive the request. We are able to, it comes through our short messaging center. Once it gets to the short messaging center, that is a binary encrypted message, of course. It comes into the M-pesa core. When it gets into the M-pesa core, we're able to decrypt the request securely, and then now understand the transaction type that you are trying to undertake as a customer. We process that. We do a number of checks in the system before actually we complete that transaction. And those checks happen within the shortest period of time. Assuming you are moving money today from your M-pesa wallet to a partner or to a bank, for example, a customer to business transaction, a couple of checks would happen in such a case. We first check whether you really have money, because when the request leaves your handset, it's your wish that it goes through. What we do on this other end is just to check first, do you have sufficient funds? And then if you have sufficient funds, is the partner available to receive your request? If the partner is available to receive your request, then we now proceed to complete that transaction and notify you as a customer through our notification channels, short messaging center. If you are doing a USSD transaction, it hits our gateways. So the way we've layered M-pesa is such that in order to protect it, we have gateways outside the core M-pesa. So when these requests come in, they hit our gateways, and then now they go into our core M-pesa where the actual processing happens, where we have now the hundreds of servers that handle these requests and applications and database that would process these, with several checks that happen. Remember, when you're doing a transaction also, we have to push you to confirm whether the name of the person you're sending to is the right one, hakikisha. So that also happens within that short period of time. And all that is within our architecture. And we've been able to ensure that we deliver that highly concurrent data processing environment to be able to fulfill our customer requests within milliseconds or a very short time. We've been evolving our infrastructure and how the application sits from the year 2015. Generation 1 was in Germany. When it came to generation 2, working closely with our partner, that is Huawei, on the core evolution of the system. We started with a monolithic system, basically to mean that every change was really a headache, just to make a simple change, not highly configurable. And from then, we've been able to evolve it to a manner that it is highly configurable. From a cloud perspective and containerization of the applications, that is an evolution that we've been undertaking. In 2020, generation 1 was between 2007 to 2015. 15, we moved to generation 2 M-pesa, the famous G2. And then from 2020, silently, we moved to generation 3, where we also re-architected it further. But it was not a massive architectural change, just to allow for a few microservices to run for critical services, but still we had the old architecture on the system. And now we are going into a new modern M-pesa coming soon, where we'll now change it to 100% cloud native. We are setting up a cloud within, a private cloud within, same architecture, resilient architecture, active architecture, in a manner that once we cut over into it, then we'll be running on a cloud native environment that is scalable. It's robust enough to be able to handle the traffic that we receive and the requests that we receive from our customers. But also, most importantly, it is secure in the sense that all the security layers and all the lessons that we've picked historically over the years, then we are going to embed that. AI is a critical thing, and that also comes at the fore of the architecture that we have. And the architecture that we had before was not AI native, because remember, then we needed to fulfill a request, a business goal from a technology perspective, which was just to ensure that we have a stable platform that can power innovation and that can allow integration to partners and, of course, additional use cases. Now we are going into a space where we have a lot of new technologies, trends. So we have to change the core of the system, the foundation of the system, to be AI native in nature, in that we are going to leverage on those AI capabilities to now address things like fraud. And even from a monitoring perspective, system monitoring perspective, we're able to start predicting the trends of the traffic for the next few days and so. So we are going to a fully cloud native environment. We are partially there, but for sure, we are going into that space within the next few months. You'll be hearing from us. Yeah, security is very key for us. And again, you understand, you're dealing with money here, and therefore we have to ensure that the security is up to par. And therefore what we've done is we've layered a couple of security devices within the architecture, but not only so. Within the architecture, we've also had to zone the environment differently so as to ensure that you only access what you have to access. Even internally, my colleagues within the teams, whenever they access M-pesa, then they only access it whenever they only access what they have to access internally. So going to the low-level architectural details, just to mention, we have a couple of devices, of course. We have the anti-DDoS to prevent us from DDoS attacks. We have intrusion prevention systems. We have web application firewalls. Beyond that is now the zoning, where we've zoned the environment differently. Whenever you log into M-pesa as an engineer within Safaricom, you actually, and just to mention, not everybody can access that environment. A few selected few can access the environment. But also when you access that environment, the moment you log in, we actually start recording whatever you are doing within the system. So that in an event you erroneously execute a command that ends up causing us problems, then we're able to play back and actually we're able to recover the system faster. So with the moment you access that environment, it's a highly restricted environment, we start recording everything that you do within that core ecosystem of M-pesa. And that is how we provide that security from the infrastructure level, the processes, user management, access, and all the other processes that we've embedded in them, then we're able to do so. There are several programs that our cyber team that we work closely with run just to secure M-pesa. They do a lot of vulnerability checks within the environment. They scan the environment just to ensure that we are not running outdated versions. And as and when we do so, then it's our responsibility to ensure that we actually upgrade our systems to the latest versions so that we are not vulnerable. We don't run vulnerable versions within our ecosystem. So we have a couple of programs in that case that assure us from a security point of view. So it covers platform, processes, and even people, where we have a team that is dedicated, highly skilled, that ensures that M-pesa is monitored from a security perspective 24/7, and they're able to remediate anything that they see within. Actually, the other thing I almost forgot to mention is that whenever you log into M-pesa and you make a change on the system, the team that handles our cyber is able to see that you've actually made a change within the system. And if that change does not have a corresponding approval, because every change that you do on M-pesa must be approved. And for my case, any change that goes into the core M-pesa every other day or touches around the M-pesa environment, I have to approve. And therefore, that means if you do a change that is not approved, then it's a team that actually, independent team that monitors that. And when they pick that, then they're able to flag it, and the due process follows after that. So basically, it's layers of ensuring that we have a secure ecosystem for our customers. The moment you log in, you try to remove a folder from the server, Linux command there. What would happen ideally is an email is triggered automatically to the cyber teams. You'll see an email from cyber saying, we've seen somebody has tried to execute X command, and then we're able to see so. On a database layer, you try to go there, you run a command, update X, you're actually not able to do so. And there's one thing that most of people usually ask me, Felix, now, can you update my balances on M-pesa? And actually, the way we've architected the system jointly with the partner is just to ensure that actually nobody can update the M-pesa balances. So we have a series of keys. I will not go to the details of that, but what happens is if you attempt today to go to the database and update the balance of a customer, that customer will never be able to transact, because your previous balance forms the series of the next balance, and actually the next action that would come from your mobile phone will be tied to that whatever you did previously. So what happens in that case is, for sure, if you attempt to update the balances, then that customer will not be able to transact. So those are some of the low-level security items that we've been able to embed within the system, and there are many more actually that are there, because when we always embed new things that come on board, for example, anything that comes from an AI perspective, anything that comes from a web that we're able to pick using our web firewalls, we're able to learn and actually enhance our rules to protect our customers even better. And most importantly, ensure that the system is robust and secure and foolproof from any intrusion. So where we are today, we have the role of AI in terms of fraud detection, where we note patterns that are not, they're not usual, and then we're able to block that. From a transaction perspective, just to break it down in a nutshell, we also have a team within our ecosystem that just focuses on fraud detection, where you find a customer, for example, who's doing a transaction that they don't usually do. So using AI, then we're able to prevent that transaction because it could be a customer is being defrauded. Of course, these are cases where you have to learn for some time using machine learning. You have to enhance those models, so it takes a bit of time. But where we are today, I can comfortably mention that with the support of our fraud team, we've been able to get somewhere in terms of being able to detect some of those transactions that would have been fraudulent and being able to protect our customers. As much as in some cases, because again, as I mentioned, these models have to learn for some time, we could prevent a transaction that was actually supposed to go through. But as we go to the next generation M-pesa, and as we evolve M-pesa further, then we're going to enhance those models also to get to a point where we are even getting more real time in terms of preventing your transaction and embedding now AI into the transaction. That is a journey that we have to undertake, because remember, any change that you do on the core M-pesa could disrupt its technology. Anything could go wrong, you know. So we have to be very careful that as we introduce all these new capabilities, then we introduce them in a very careful manner, well tested, well practiced, and by the time we are going live, then it's something that has been fully tested before we introduce it to our customers. And just to mention, the series of things that we do before we take our systems live, that's why we're able to do those upgrades, seamlessly, about 2 in a month without downtime. We do system integration tests. We do a lot of user acceptance tests. We do performance tests. We do even what we call a dry runs, just to simulate actually how the go live night would be. We route some customers into the environment. They are able to transact in that environment. Then we do a flashback before doing the actual cutover. So basically, we do practice a lot of things before getting there. And those are some of the steps that we will undertake even before we enhance some of the AI models that we do have in our ecosystem to be able to protect our customers and to offer even better services to our customers. M-pesa, we have APIs. APIs are available. So in most cases, you have a big partner who comes on board and they tell you that you have to consume my APIs. And on this other side, we are like, no, you have to consume our APIs because, again, we already have partners who are already on the platform. So we've had a couple of discussions on that. But again, from a technology perspective, considering we have a common goal to meet for the business, then we've, in most cases, agreed and been able to get to a solution to deliver. The most complex now that was between systems that we actually were able to deliver within the shortest time was I'll pick an example, was the Hustler Fund delivery. You know, Hustler Fund is a delivery that we had about 40 to 45 days there about to deliver the entire proposition. And because of our agile ways of working in Safaricom and leveraging on the technology that we already have, which is the multi-tenant lending platform, remember the rules then was such that whenever you opt in on one of the networks, then you should not be able to opt in on any of the other networks, or you should not get a limit. And therefore it meant we have to integrate to our other partners through an integrator. And again, we're integrating in an environment within the shortest time, and therefore that was a bit challenging, but we were able to crack it because of our agile ways of working. And seamlessly at the day of go live, the system never crashed. M-pesa never crashed at that time. The system continued processing normally. Fuliza is one of the other systems that we brought it on board, a very complex integration where anytime a customer is not part of the course, it's a system that runs our credit. So what happens is, while transacting, we needed to prompt the customer that actually you're running out of balance and therefore you have a limit of X that you could actually utilize. So coming in between that transaction was a bit complex, and we still had to crack it within the shortest period of time. That's another complex integration that we had to undertake within. I'm really proud of the team that really transforms life from a financial inclusion perspective. We operate 24/7 with the team. So what happens when I come in the morning, I come in, I check what the team did the previous day from a system perspective, but more so checking the different KPIs within the system. And anytime I do so, check everything is below the metrics. The team, we were able to mitigate X, we were able to mitigate Y, and we are creating impact by building new products within our different squads in financial services. Then I really feel proud of that. I'm passionate about financial services. I'm passionate about mobile money. And that's why there are even days whenever we see a risk, the team, we can pull as many hours as we can, because we know we are doing so for a common goal, and most importantly ensuring that a customer somewhere there is able to push a transaction. I told you we have 4,000 transactions per second. So if we have 4,000 customers transacting per second at peak, so you can imagine if we are just down for a minute, we brought down almost 4,000 by 6, about 240,000. transactions or 4,000 to 40,000 requests from customers. If you prolong that into hours, then you can imagine how many customers you're impacting. Anytime we have an issue on the system, then we create a lot of queues in the ecosystem. And most importantly, we interfere with the trust that our customers have on us, which is not something that we would wish to do. And that is the reason why I'm proud of the team that we ensure that M-pesa is always on, and M-pesa is always secure for our customers to be able to transact. M-pesa being reliable to our customers, that is. So if there is something that gives me headache, is when I sit back and meditate that what would happen if you had an issue that goes, not even months, that goes for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. In most systems, you have the leverage of having the system going down maybe for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours across the country, even out of the country. This is a system that I do not have a reason to get it even down for a second, and therefore the pressure that comes with that is really a lot. The pressure that comes with that to the team and even to our entire ecosystem is really a lot, and therefore we have to ensure that it's always up. We do everything best to proactively pick risks, but also remember, strategy, hope cannot be the strategy for us. We have a very detailed strategy for financial services from a technology point of view, where we forecasted and we know where we want to be. I'll give you an example. By next year, around April, we should be having a capacity of 6,000 transactions per second on the system. Of course, it's a progressive delivery. By end of next year, we should have almost 8,000 as capacity, irrespective of whether customers come into use or not. We are able to forecast and say, looking at the behavior, then we need to ensure that we have enough capacity. And then there are the day-to-day things that we do on the system, where you log into the system, you check maybe the utilization is unusual, you check maybe there is a partner who's sending unusual traffic to the system, you check maybe there is a, there is a transaction type that is peaking more than the usual, and therefore we're able to provision the different metrics for that. And that's why we've actually been able to create even mechanisms within the system that we're able to protect it. In an event, we have a surge, that is not envisioned. We didn't plan for it. We've done the forecast. We've seen, this is the forecast. Then we have a capability within the system that can allow us to protect the system to process what it is able to deal with, and then anything on top of that then comes in next. So those are the things that we've embedded within the system architecturally to deliver that, just to give us confidence. And every other day we pick new lessons and we implement as mentioned. One last example to give you on that part of resilience. When M-pesa came home, of course, we realized that partners kept increasing. And there was a time when one partner going down would affect all the other partners. When you get 3 partners going down, they bring down the whole M-pesa. So what we had to do from a technical perspective was to split the queues even further, just to ensure that for critical services, if you have a transaction type for deposits or send money, then you put it in its own queue. If you have a buy goods and a partner is not available, you put it on its own queue. So that when that partner is affected, the entire ecosystem is still okay. It's only the partner that is impacted, and we're able to step in to support the partner to restore the services. Or even within our ecosystem, when we have an issue that affects, one transaction type, then the queuing mechanism that we've embedded gives us that confidence. And I'm happy because as we evolve as a team, we've been able to embed now the new technologies, the new ways of working that gets us, gives us that confidence that we can actually run confidently and provide the services always to our customers. Within the M-pesa team, we have a young, vibrant team that is really innovative. They yearn to do a lot of things. They yearn to, build new products. And they've actually been building new products, integrating new services, integrating our partners. From an engineering perspective, I would say our developers do a lot of build. So on the core system, we work with partners. The different core systems, we have different partners. So what happens is the core system, we expose a lot of APIs because, again, if you have many people touching the core, then the likelihood of having instability would be very high. So what we do is we've architected such that we have a lot of APIs. Then now our young developers and our developers, in that case, within the different squads, are able to continuously build, they're able to continuously evolve, and they're able to continuously come up with new things that are able to, power the innovation within the financial services space. So our developers here, the culture is really good in terms of building, and they are innovative in nature, and therefore you will be seeing a lot of new things coming on board. So there are cases where, of course, the current architecture that we have may have limited us to a certain extent, but also going into the new space, then you'll start seeing a lot of things coming up and a lot of new features coming up. The first thing that is very important before hiring an individual into the team is the attitude. Of course, attitude is very important. Are you willing to learn new things? Are you willing to step up? Assuming today, my phone is always on 24/7 because anything could happen late in the night. So basically it means, will you be reachable in case we reach out to you? Of course, we also check the technical capability, your technical capability as an engineer, where we look at what stack. Are you a full stack developer? Are you able to build X? Are you able to build Y? What kind of systems are you able to support? There are those who've come directly from school. Are you agile enough to be able to take up new challenges? Your perseverance level, how is it in terms of, in an event you get into a crisis that would require you to work with the team closely? Are you collaborative in nature? Are you customer-centric in nature? And more so, your integrity levels, how is it? Of course, you may not be able to pick that immediately in an interview, but some of the things you're able to observe that as things progress. And that's why, of course, in our ecosystem, we have HR processes that helps us to manage performance end to end. That's how we've had now a proper team on board that is highly motivated to deliver most of these things. So actually, about 2 weeks ago, we were able to upskill 117 team members within Safaricom because, as I told you, we are upgrading the system into the next level. Just to take them through what would happen. Sometime last year, we had a mandatory AI course for all the staff. And that's basically taking us to the next level. We have materials available with the support of our HR that are available for the teams to be able to go through, to be able to upskill themselves. We've worked closely with our partners, for example, the AWS, Google, Huawei, all these partners. We work closely with them so that whenever there are courses that are available for our teams to take, then they're able to take them. And we support that fully because as much as you may not apply a certain skill today, you'll actually need it tomorrow. So I told you we're evolving our systems to fully cloud native. From a core M-pesa perspective, then at that point, then we should not be looking back to say we would have spent more time or more resources upskilling the team. So we do that upfront. That goes ahead even before we go now to the actual deployment. So we have a team that supports our experimentation, just see what we could do purely from an experimentation perspective and getting ready. And the architecture, in an event that happens, then we should be ready to support. In an event that is approved by the regulators, and an event that is where we have to go to from a business strategic perspective. Then from a technology point of view, then we have to be ready. And therefore, we have a team that keeps experimenting some of these new technologies. As much as we've not embedded them into the life system, we're actually experimenting them. We have a couple of features. For example, we have about 7 capabilities that we would want to push them to our customers this year from an innovation perspective. And these are being experimented. Once they are okay, then that's when now we go to the business team and say, this is something that we think it is valuable and we could go together. Working closely with them, that's how we're able to take it now to market. If it's something that, innovation is something, it could go well, it could fail. That's why we always have to keep trying it. And with that team, we're able to do so. But the decision actually to move into the fintech next generation is what we had to do. Because when we looked at the architecture that we have today, it's an architecture that could only scale to 5,000 transactions per second. And it is because of the database limitation that we had. And therefore, we took a strategic decision to say, why can't we shard the databases? In this case, why can't I have a segment of customers being on database X, database Y, but also ensure that all of them are talking to each other seamlessly? That's a strategic decision from a database perspective. From an application perspective, why can't we go the microservice route? So Fintech 2.0, the next generation of M-pesa, whatever we've been evolving from 2015 has been on the same code base to what we have today before we go live on the next generation. Now on the next generation, that's where we started from scratch, where we sat with our partner and said, we need to start afresh. We need to expose X APIs. We need to have these tightly coupled with the core system for even better stability. We need to have X APIs. We need to have Y security embedded within the core system. The more security is layered, the better. So we started embedding more security capabilities within the system and also ensuring now we have more APIs, more flexibility, and configurability of the platform becoming very key because in most cases, the first generation of the system, then we had to do a lot of configurations from a technology perspective. How do we empower our business teams to be able to come in that we support and actually do some of those configurations seamlessly without impacting the entire system? So that architectural change is what we've had to undertake. And this is on the core. Going now into our apps, that's the same thing that we're undertaking to say, we've taken our lifestyle app to where it is today. What can we do differently on the lifestyle app to have one app that is able to deliver, to our customers? One lifestyle app that whenever I go in there, I can actually do everything. You can do payments, you can do credit stuff, you can do insurance, you can do, wealth, ZD that is, and any other thing. So from a technology perspective, that's what we undertake. Reducing the potential points of failures architecturally and simplifying the architecture into a manner that we're able to seamlessly still offer the same service with a very simple architecture that is more resilient in nature. We are evolving our current lifestyle app. And that, as I said, there are many things that will be coming soon. Be on the watch out, and you'll be seeing many good things coming. We have a team that is really dedicated, really working so hard to ensure that we offer some of these services to our customers. We've picked a number of lessons. There are cases where a customer will tell you, I'm not able to do X, I'm not able to do Y. Can you protect me from a transaction by doing X? Some of these things that we pick insights from customers, also from our research perspective, that we're now embedding into our new ecosystem. So we embarked on a journey to seriously transform, and even more seriously transform, whatever is within our financial services technology ecosystem in Safaricom. We've been doing so, but now there's another bold step that we are taking just to evolve it further.